So I think Nidhi has pretty much covered everything, like how we can govern the AWS cloud. Similar tools and technologies or approaches, I will say, we have in the other clouds as well. So Azure also have same kind of patterns. For example, you have the landing zones in the AWS. Okay, same way we have the landing zones in the Azure as well. We can also establish the guardrails, or you can say policies in the Azure as well. So in this today governance topic, we will just cover a very high level overview of three of the techniques that we can use in order to govern. One is like Azure landing zone, and we will cover blueprints and the policies. So this is how we are going to proceed with. Uh, so I'm just taking an analogy for this landing zone, that for a layman person, how you can treat it. So just consider it like an airport might be. So you can consider an airport like a landing zone, okay, where your aircrafts can land, right? So for example, you have a runway which you establish or set up just once, and then there you can lend multiple aircrafts. It's not like for each aircraft you have to again set up your airport, or you again have to set up a runway, right? So in the same pattern, think uh, your organization or enterprise is a new enterprise and you want to onboard yourself to the cloud, and you don't have anything in mind, like you don't know like how to onboard your application. So first thing that should come in your mind is, what will be my landing zone? Like what should be my base or infrastructure where I could actually deploy my application? Because if you start just deploying your application, or I would say if you start just thinking about lending your aircraft without even preparing the runway, or without even having that tools or techniques by which you can provide the facilities, so how you will be able to scale your application, or how you will be able to let's say lend multiple aircrafts in that analogy, I could say. Hmm. So it's the same way. Aircraft is a like your application, and your complete airport, your air runway and all that is your like landing zone. um, so now coming to this technical terms, as Nidhi also mentioned, this lending zone you can use for a green field, a new application development, as well as for an existing application also, which you have on your on-premise and you are thinking to migrate it over to the cloud. Hmm? Next, it is actually a part of the cloud adoption framework journey. So CAF is a foundation and they already have their templates that they provide. So if you are thinking to onboard yourself to the cloud, just adopt their templates, make some changes to them according to your requirement, and just deploy them. You don't have to think, oh, what's how to start with, what should be my policies. They provide a certain decent set of policies which you can just onboard and just make some changes in them as per your needs. So it's like you don't have to do anything manually, and it's like this whole setup, your whole base infra can be just pre-provisioned by the code. It can be done just on the one click. So how the templates looks like for this landing zone, as in the AWS you have the vending machine that does it for you. In the landing zone they used to provide the templates. If you are into a Microsoft shop, I would say, then you can use the ARM templates, that is Azure Resource Manager templates, which internally uses the blueprints, or I would say it's a blueprint which internally uses the ARM templates. Other way, if you are like a multi cloud, I would say, then you can go with the Terraform as well. So now Terraform also used to provide their modules for the landing zone, which you could just use to onboard your application. So that's also a good way by which you can go. Hmm. And it includes all the foundational capabilities with the best practices. So let's say whenever you are creating some resources, that resources must have some tag associated with it. For example, to which department it belongs and all. So these kind of best practices, or I can say policies, they already come baked in the templates. So you just can add more as per your requirement. So coming to this diagram, if you see over here, this is how the architecture or structure looks like in the Azure. In the Azure, we have a root management group. We don't have the concept of accounts. Rather, we have the concept of the subscription and the management groups over here. So there is a root management group, which is like your tenant or your organization. Under it, we can have as many management groups as we need. So it totally depends upon you, how you want to organize it. Whether you want to make one management group per department or whether you want to create management group per region. So it totally depends. Generally, how it happens is best practices to create the management group per department wise so that you can apply the policies to that particular management group, and that will be inherited by all the resources under that particular department or the management group. And then within this particular management group, then you can have multiple subscriptions. That could be environment wise, might be. So in Azure, the billing used to happen on the subscription level. So let's say for prod, you might want to have a different subscription because the cost or budget you want to keep for the production might be higher, and for the testing, it might be less. So in that way, we could have multiple subscriptions for different subscriptions for different environments within our management group. So in this way, your architecture could look like. And this hierarchy can go up to like 6th level down. So you can organize your enterprise in this way. So some considerations that have to be kept in mind while designing the lending zone is, so there are 3 categories basically. One is hosting, which is like you have to decide your compute, network, storage, and database needs. Like whether you are going to go with the VMs or the containers or serverless or how your networking look like, whether you want to go with the hub or spoke network model or some different model, how the storage, like your retention requirement or data fetching requirements. Database is like whether it's a SQL or no SQL or relational or non-relation, what kind of database requirement you have. Next is like primitives. This is the major part. Primitives is like, which are the main things in Azure, like management groups, how many management groups you want to, how you want to categorize your enterprise basically, how many subscriptions you want to have, how many resource group. So in Azure, resource group is like a virtual container, I would say. So what all resources which lie in a resource group, they all can be deleted in one go. So this is the benefit of having a resource group and creating a resources under the resource group. And you could apply the naming standards as well. Next consideration is the governance. Governance is like how you want to budget it. For example, for test subscription, you can set like $50 per month might be, you could have some budget. So in this way, you can estimate the cost, or you can have some considerations in your mind, like for which subscription, how much budget you want to allocate. Policies. What are the requirements of your organization? Let's say if you are dealing with a government project, then they generally have a requirement that your data must not cross the region. So in similar way, you can have the policies. Or for example, you should not be able to spin up a virtual machine in this particular region. So that type of policies you can enforce. Second is monitoring. So what all resources you have to monitor, and what type of functionalities you want from it. For example, whether you want to use a cloud agnostic tool, or you want to use a cloud native tool. For example, in Azure, we have Azure Monitor or Log Analytics for collecting, or whether you want to go with the cloud agnostic like Prometheus or something else. Then comes the identity. It's like to whom you want to grant which type of rules and permissions, or whether you want to sync up your on-premise with the Azure AD. So all these things comes under the identity. Okay. Now coming to adoption part, the Cloud Adoption Framework Community, or I would say CAR Foundation, they have proposed 2 adoption paths. First is start small and then gradually expand yourself. It's like if you don't know about your scaling requirements today, might be have just one shared subscription, one networking or one logging, and then just one application subscription. And if you see more needs in the future, then you can gradually expand. And one is like enterprise scale, that if you know that your organization is already a largely scaled one, then you can go with the enterprise scale in the starting itself. So for both these paths, there are templates already available. I have pasted the reference links also, which I could share over the chat as well. So we can just refer those templates, that what all features or resources these cloud adoption frameworks used to provide, and we can just treat them as a baseline for us. Okay. So I'm just starting with an example, with a scenario we have considered, like how this could be look like, and might be you can simulate the same condition in your projects as well. So let's consider an organization which is a widgets organization, and this is the first time that they are leveraging the Azure, and before it they have never used or onboard any of their application over the Azure. And they have two kinds of application that they wish to migrate. So it's not a greenfield, it's a migrate scenario. And the applications are like, one is the internet facing application, which is an e-commerce website, and they have one custom built invoicing solution, which is corporate facing, which is internal to their organization. So the needs are now, one is the public facing and one is internal to their organization. So depending upon this, how the network could look like. So one of the way that they have gone with is like hub and spoke model, because in this scenario, you want the connectivity from internet as well as to the on-premise, as this is a local internal application. So in that case, hub and spoke model fits best, because you could set up a hub which is in one subscription, which could connect to your on-premise, and then you have the spoke which are in different subscription, in which different applications are lying. So let's say if those applications want to connect to your on-premise, they will connect via the hub to your on-premise. So that way, so in this, you can see like they have used the hub and spoke, in which hub has been set into this subscription, as here VPN gateway, Azure firewall is there, and other there is a spoke in which they have done the VNet peering. Okay, so let's see the diagram, like how it looks like. So this is the tenant root group, which is the widgets organization. So the policies that they have applied over this at this level, it goes down to all the resources, irrespective in which management group it lies. Because the policies or whatever you apply at the root level, it's all inherited. So let's say if you have applied some monitoring or some policies over here, it will be to all. Now, how you could segregate or how you could decide like how your management groups should look like. So let's say one way is, for example, here they have done is like infra and your application. So it's like a platform management group which deals with the shared infra or the networking. And one is the lending zone management group, which only hosts your applications. Okay. Now, within the platform, there are again two groups. One is like the management group, or I could say it as a shared group. And one is the connectivity, where all the network related components lie. Okay. So in the management subscription, all the resources which you think should be the shared across your whole enterprise, that comes into this management subscription. For example, you need some monitoring solution that should be common to all the resources, or by which you can monitor your whole Azure cloud resources. So that you can put under one subscription. For example, monitoring services or your security center, which could advise you or identify the risk. Okay. One is the connectivity subscription, where all the networking related resources are there, like VPN gateway, a firewall, watcher, DDoS protection plan, all this. Now comes this lending zone management group, in which we have again two groups. One is for the internal, which is corporation, and one is for the public facing. So in the public facing management group, the subscription, in this we have just one application, which is for the public facing. And in this management group, we have one subscription, which has just internal facing application, which is your invoicing solution. And you could see here we have done the virtual peering from this to this. And in this, we don't have any virtual peering because it is directly connected to the internet. So in this way, the design could be look like, okay. So what is the prerequisite for it is you must have these subscriptions beforehand. Otherwise, this whole setup, like creation of the management groups, creation of these resources, everything is can be automated with the help of the just one click. You can just deploy this whole infra with the help of the templates. So how you could refer, so there are these are some of the reference links. For example, you could refer the Microsoft Docs. They have provided the foundation blueprint and you could just go through it. And other ways, you are just cloud agnostic, you can go to the Terraform lending zone modules. Or for people who are not aware of the Terraform or the ARM, they can even go with the PowerShell scripts. Modules are also there, and SDK's option is also there. You can go ahead and deploy your lending zone. Yeah, that's it. I will hand over to Arun to take forward with the blueprints and the policies.
Yeah, thanks, Ashi. Just a second. Let me share my screen. Yeah. So, hello everyone. Since we are talking about the cloud governance, let's consider the Azure policy as a granular level. That's a major component from the Azure cloud, or even any cloud. That's we generally we get the policies in AWS, Azure, and the GCP as well. So why we considering this policy as a major component? Just because when we are talking about the setting some rules in cloud, or maybe in your organization or wherever it is, we set up a policy. It's similar like your company or organization that has a policy, like every employee must have an identity card, and after that they can enter into the office only. So that's a policy from your organization. And similarly we have policy in our Azure cloud, or maybe any other AWS clouds. So that's a just Azure policy is like a set of rules that we define in a definition and apply into our environments, or maybe in your cloud environments. So you can always apply these policies from the Azure portal or Azure CLI, or maybe Azure templates. So there are many ways that you can apply or enforcing these policies in your account or in your environment. And in Azure world, Azure policy is like a service which can be assigned and managed or implemented to any scope. So now when we talk about the scope, so what is scope actually? So scope is nothing but it's like your management group or subscription, or maybe granular level. If we go down, then it's a resource group, or maybe individual resource. So it could be anything and can be applied to any resource group, or maybe or management group. So that's how Azure policy will work. And the common use case of our Azure policies are implementing of governance and consistency in our resources, regulatory compliances, or maybe auditing. So you can set up auditing as well with Azure policies. And let's have a look on the Azure policy structure basically. So here we have a Azure policy which is containing the information about the resource which is not the part of West US2 location. Then it should not be created in our environment. So the policy structure very simple, and we have a properties, parameters, and policy rules, and then last we have effect. So we have multiple effect type here, or it could be deny, audit, or if not exist. So there are a number of effects we have in our policy structure. So this is a basic policy structure sample that we have here, and it's covering like you are not allowed if you are create if you will try to create your resource apart from west to west to region. So that's how policy will work. Now think about when you try to set up these policies, and you have some custom requirements. So then Azure will provide us a concept like you can always write up a custom policies in Azure environment, and by default Azure provides hundreds of predefined policies which we could use in according to our use case. But in case if we stuck like some custom requirement, then we do have our custom policies options that we can provision. And let's think about when we are trying to deploy these policies or provisioning these policies for the single environment, that could be easy. But when we think if we have to replicate these compliances or these policies in n number of environments, it could be dev, QA, or maybe UAT, or maybe production. So then it might be some hard way to do that with manual. And of course when we are going to the manual level, we have 100% chance to giving the manual error, or human intervention can be causes the error. So Azure provides another services which is our blueprints. That's Azure blueprints that we provided. And Azure blueprints is something like we are setting our templates or definition for the creating the resources, creating the policies, and giving the that definition to the creating to the as an artifact to the blueprints. Since we are creating a general artifacts with a set of rules and set of infrastructure definitions, it will convert as a version. So Azure blueprints provide a version specific artifacts. So whenever you have a whenever you are starting with your deployment procedure, you can always start your with your definitions. You can start with the you can write up your Azure policies, you can write up your ARM templates, role-based access controls listing can be draft into this artifacts, and can be publish it to the blueprint. Once it is published, then you can assign that artifact to any subscriptions, or maybe management group. So since like if you are going with a management group and you have n number of subscription there, it will be simultaneously applicable for all subscriptions. Think like if I don't want to I don't want to apply all the I don't want to apply that artifacts on particular subscription like C or maybe B, then I have an option to exclude from the assignment. So that's another option we used to get in the Azure blueprints. So we have some basic life cycle of Azure blueprints. So since we have seen like it's a artifact that we have to compose first, and once we are done with our definitions like Azure policy, ARM templates, or maybe RBAC, so then we used to publish this artifact into the blueprints. So it's like Azure blueprints provide a versioning system, and that whatever you have write up, it's giving you the a unique name and with version 1, and you can assign this version 1 with your any resource group, or maybe subscription, or maybe management group. And the same way, if you think like you need to update that artifact, you have always option to do that. And you have always option to do that, and you can deassign it and update your artifact with the latest policy or maybe latest ARM template, and then you can reassign that artifact into the same subscription. And if you want to remove or deassign the blueprint, it doesn't remove your destroy your already created infrastructure. So it's a hassle-free process that Azure provides in terms of the blueprint lifecycle. And uh, I mean, that's a way to start with a better cloud governance in our environment, using the landing zone and Azure policy, as well as the Azure blueprint. So all these combine of set of rules, set of services, which will implement our a good governance in our cloud environment. So this is pretty much about the Azure blueprint and policies.